Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this evening's Environmental Committee. Can I draw everyone's attention to page 3 within the agenda, which sets out details regarding fire safety instructions and the webcasting arrangements. In the event of fire alarm sounding, please leave the building via the nearest exit. Make your way to the assembly point located in Market Car Park, adjacent to the Civic Suite building. Please do not return to the building unless given permission by council staff. Item 1, apologies for absence and substitutes members and non-members attending. Councillor N. Booth, substituted by Councillor A. Eves. Councillor Linden, non-members in attendance, Councillor Williams, Councillor A. FD, and Councillor Marriott, and are seated at the back row. Oh, sorry. And Councillor Stanley. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Sutton has given his apologies this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. Item number 2, minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of March the 19th of March 2026. Are the minutes agreed? Item 3, to receive declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? If you are declaring an interest, please state the interest and the reason why you are declaring the interest. Thank you. Item 4, public question on notice. There have been none received. Sorry. Chair's update. The report beginning on page 11. This report provides an update of the members in relation to the areas covered under the terms of preference of the Environmental Committee. Invite questions from the committee. Are there any questions, please? Sorry. Right. This report is noted.
Noted, Chairman.
Item 6, open spaces and pleasure grounds bylaws. The report begins with page 15. The Council Open Spaces and Pleasure Grounds bylaws date from 1975 and require updating to apply to all council-owned sites. Following previous submission, the draft bylaws have been amended to remove locally added wording and revert to the prescribed model bylaws in law with the Secretary of State feedback. This report seeks approval of the revised and model compliant draft to enable resubmission and implementation. Invite questions. Mr. Aldridge, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Chair. No, nothing further to add, but happy to take any questions. We're also supported by Inca Johnson, our Woodland and Country Parks officer as well. Thank you.
Invite questions from Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Chairman. I have no problem with the report at all. Thank you very much, Adam. Very concise report. Just one question. It's regarding enforcement. How will we enforce these bylaws? Is that possible?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, it's a good question. So at the moment, we don't have any firm plans for enforcement, but I think without the bylaws, we don't have an opportunity to enforce. So I think this is stage 1. we get the bylaws in place, and then once they're in place, then there's another option that we can look at. But I think without the bylaws, we can't even look at the enforcement option.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to come back on just one question. And these will be sort of publicised and changed, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Chair. Just one little thing that really has got to me. Page 17, 1.12, references requiring activities to cause damage to land or... to cause damage to land or danger. It's been simplified. I can't see how, but anyway. To modelling word of cause danger or annoyance to other persons. Do we need to put annoyance to other persons, or just any annoyance would be superficial to everybody then? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. Oh, is that working? Thank you. We're revising it back to the model, so the model bylaw that the government provides on their website has that as the wording. So sorry, can you hear me now? Yeah. Thank you. So we're reverting it back to the wording that the government have as their model bylaw. They prefer if you followed that, so we're following their advice and guidance from their statement that they gave back to us.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. Councillor Reeves.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one particular thing stands out to me on 1.13. Pedal cycle has been amended. The previous wording explicitly included electrical assisted pedal cycles. This has been simplified to align with the standard model definition. What is the standard model definition? We are getting a lot of complaints as members at the moment with electric powered bikes tearing up streets, etc. Yeah, 1.14 definition of power driven in waterways. I mean, I'm trying to get the connection between a pedal cycle and something being in waterways. A bit confusing.
Thank you. With the power-driven electric, we did have that back on consultation to be requested to be put in, but Secretary of State came back and pedal cycle in the definition. Electric is considered within that in normal legislation, so we don't have to define it. So that's no longer necessary. And then within the consultation, people requested that motorised electric boats also be considered into the definition. And that's the reason that that got amended as well.
Thank you. That's just open to a little bit of confusion there, so thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Councillor Stanley, you have...
Yes, I was going to mention that as well myself. Could there not be a sign up of 4 miles an hour max if you are using an electric vehicle? Cycle, please. Thank you.
Thank you. With government guidance and definitions, electric-powered cycles can go up to 15 miles per hour, and that's the definition. So we just had to follow government guidance on that. We can't add in new restrictive laws because it has to be the least disruptive and it has to be proportionate. That's sort of their main stance on bylaws. It can't be restrictive to a severe extent, which is why we had to revert back to what they guide us to write as.
Can I come back, please? Due to the fact that somebody has got a claim on Lime as a motorised pedal vehicle, which she was knocked down and badly damaged her person, spine and hip. I think there should be a restriction on motorised cycles in our walkways. For that same reason, if we do get an injury, who is to blame? Are we insured against it if we allow that to happen? And I don't think we are. So I think we need to put some sort of restriction on those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. Sorry, Marcus. Yeah, I agree with the sentiment. I definitely do. I think the purpose of this report is we had made them amendments originally when we brought it back to the committee last time, is that the Secretary of State would not accept those separate amendments from us because they did not align with the government's model bylaws. So we can look to have our own prescriptions within there, but our bylaws have to be the prescriptions set out by the model bylaws from the Secretary of State.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. Are there any further questions? Councillor Linden. Sorry.
FD.
FD.
Yeah, that's all right, thank you. Just quick questions on 3.5, the arrangements to transfer accountability to making bylaws to local councils. One, what council will this mean? Because we're moving into the unitary. Would it go to the unitary or would it go down to parish and towns? And I expect a lot of time the bylaw will come from parish and town. How will that work? How will they actually make that bylaw to go to Secretary of State? I don't know if Director of Environment can answer that, or Adam. Thank you, Chairman.
So I think it's probably a little bit too early to say the details. I mean, certainly unitary authorities do have bylaws and enforce bylaws. So if you take Southend, you know that their open space have bylaws. So these will be transferable across in those two circumstances. And I'd expect it to be the unitary authority, but we have to wait for the details to come out in terms of this LGR sort of process. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor FD. I will move the recommendations set out on pages 15 and 16 of the report. Can we take these en bloc, members? Do I have a seconder? Oh, right, I've got rid of that. Sorry. That the committee approve. R1, the committee approves the amendments made to the draft open spaces and pleasure grounds bylaws to reflect the prescribed model bylaws wording. R2, that delegated authority be granted to the Director of Environment and consultation with the Chair of the Environment Committee to progress any further minor amendments required to the draft bylaws, provided such amendments are within the scope of this report, page 16. R3, that delegated authority be granted to the Director of Environment in a consultation with the Chair of the Environment to formally make and implement the bylaws once approved has been granted through the statutory process. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Is that it? Can I go to a vote? By a show of hands. For. And I got. No, yeah, 4. That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 7, procurement of household wheeled bins for waste and recycling. The report begins on page 63. This report seeks approval of the Environmental Committee to commence a formal procurement process for the supply of wheeled bins required to support the Council's waste, recycling and composting services. The procurement will ensure value for money, continuality of the service delivery and maintain compliance and operational branding and environmental standards. Mr. Ellis, do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you, Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Eaves?
As part of the procurement process, can we do a little bit of a study on the strength of these bins? Because we're having enormous problems with them getting broken by the machines that are actually on the vehicles. The food waste bin, we didn't have ours for 2 weeks before it got broken. And we've already had one green bin been replaced. It strikes me as though they are a little bit weak in places. I wonder if we could just be checking that within the procurement process, please.
So I think the short answer is yes. I think there are a history of some of those green bins for a certain period of time that they were of a specification perhaps not as good as they should have been previously. But certainly the specification has been revised. I think that was when we had a period where the contractor was duty bound to supply the bins, and since then it's been better since we've sourced them ourselves, if that makes sense. So we pay directly for those. There's not an incentive to cut corners in quite the same way as perhaps a contractor would do so. But yes, we are. The food caddies, unfortunately, are regardless of the specification that you have. I mean, they're as robust as any I've seen out there. They do take a bit of a knocking, unfortunately, at times. But yes, certainly we are ensuring that the specification is of a good standard.
Thank you, Councillor Eaves. Further question?
I just wanted to clarify, this was not as a criticism of officers on previous things. It's just down to experience and drawing on the experience and to ask the question when the procurement is done. Thank you.
No, I took it as a positive question, and like I said, and again, and down to experience of having lived here for a few years, I do recollect a period of time when the bins were breaking. It's the green bins in particular that we have had an issue in the past. So no offence taken at all. That's quite constructive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eaves. Councillor Stanley?
Thank you, Chair. Two things. One is that there seems to be a lot of bins that are being broken, as been mentioned. Whether or not the drivers can help us and the public, even though they've got to report those, they can help us. Is there a means and way that they can help us in helping us to navigate through the broken bins? In other words, make a list of them as they're going through. And the other thing is, with the procurement, with the new bins, so I get this last time when I was in your chair. The idea was that if we was to replace bins, they would be bought by the householder in replacement bins. I don't know if this is going to carry on or whether it is something we was looking at. And also the builders, when they build, we supply the bins free of charge. I think that is correct. Is that not so?
I think it's almost the other way around. So for the builders we charge, we ask for a contribution from the builders to purchase the new bins, because it's quite a significant outlay for us as authority. Most developers are happy to agree to do so. So they contribute to the purchase. In fact, I would say actually oversees the delivery and the sort of administration around purchasing them. So it's certainly a fair contribution that developers make towards purchasing new bins. With existing bins, they are replaced for free. Certainly, Thurrock is an example of where they do charge for the replacement of every bin, and I think it's something we've considered previously. But it's for each administration that comes along to decide whether that's something they want to do. So that's as much as I can comment on that. On your first point, it was really around. We do obviously make the public have access to online or customer services to report any damage to their bins, or so we can then arrange for replacement of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. Councillor Hughes?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. You've just actually answered the question I was going to ask Stanley's asked, but also, how many reports do we have the yellow bins being broke each week?
It's something I don't have to hand, but I'm happy to circulate to the committee. I mean, certainly it hasn't gone up. So in terms of the contract cost, it's gone up with inflation. So we seem to be. I would say if you've, I'm trying to work off my head. It's about sort of 200 or 1,000 bins out there. Perhaps in any one year, you may expect maybe 5,000 of those that require replacement. So if you think a bin has got generously a 20-year life, but you would plan for a 10-year life. So you're always going to see quite a few bins every year, every day, requiring replacement somewhere within the authority.
Sorry, can I continue? I've noticed on a Friday where we have collections, especially if it's a windy day, we seem to see a lot of the bins in the road. And if they're being broke, who's actually paying for them? Is that the resident or is that the council that's actually paying for that?
So it's the council that pays for those placements.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. No further questions? Oh, Councillor Eddie.
FB. Don't worry, you'll get it. Very quick, I'm really pleased to hear that the council is not charging residents for broken bins, which are usually broken on the machine. And I suppose you'd charge them if they put hot ash in them and burnt them. I suppose that would be a reason to charge. But on our website, it gives a lot of information about what to and what not to put in the bins. But there doesn't seem to be any information about how best to care for your bins. Is it best to put them somewhere dark to keep out of the ultraviolet sun? Is it ultraviolet? No, the sunlight, stop them degrading, and what sort of detergents to use to clean them out. That might be something that's worth doing to increase the life of the bins. The Chair.
Councillor FD, thank you very much. Is there any more questions? Councillor Ghosh.
Thank you, Chair. I can see from the report that we award the contract to the successful bidder up to the value of 400,000. So why not is 250,000 instead of 400,000? Because it should be committee. It should come to the committee if it's anything above 250,000.
So you're absolutely correct. Anything over 250,000 has to come to. So it is over that value. So it's 400,000. It's the contract value is worked out by its total length. So it's about 100,000 a year that we spend on bins, but it's over 4 years. So it's viewed as a £400,000 value contract. Hence, it's got to come to this committee. If there wasn't any budget available to do so, it'd have to go on to council. But the budget is in place, so the committee is within its constitutional right to make that decision. So it is the correct committee for it to come to. Is that what you're asking? I think.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ghosh. Councillor Stanley.
Yes, I know this is going to be probably the wrong question to ask, but how long will this replacement bins or these bins that we are buying at the moment, how long do you expect that to last? Will it be for 3 years, or is that an overall, is that a yearly thing, or what? Thank you.
So I would normally advise to a bin life of about 10 years on average. Obviously, give or take, some last 20, some only last 5, but you'd kind of budget for a 10-year life on the bins. On those ones particularly as well, yes.
Can I just come back? Can you explain, is that 400,000 for 10 years, or is that 400,000 this year?
So we spend approximately 100,000 a year. So it's 400,000 over 4 years.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. Councillor Marriott.
Approximately how many bins do we supply a year?
I should have had that figure to hand, shouldn't I? My apologies. I can tell you approximately. Bear with me. So you're talking about approximately 6,500 bins a year?
Thank you, Councillor Marriott. Any other questions? Thank you. I will move the recommendations set out on page 63 of the report. Can we take these en bloc, members? R1 approves the commencement of the formal procurement process for the supply and delivery of wheeled bins in accordance with the specifications and the evaluations criteria outlined in this report. R2, delegate authority to the Director of Environment in consultation with the Chief Legal Officer and Chairman of the Environment Committee to award the contract to the successful bidder up to the value of 400,000 as detained in this report. Do I have a seconder? Move to a vote to show of hands. For? That's unanimous. Item 8, Rochford North and Business Plan 2006-2007. The report begins on page 69. Rochford North is a local authority trading company, LAT company, jointly owned by the Council and North Commercial Services Limited. The company delivers environmental services on behalf of the shareholders and is required to submit an annual business plan for approval by its shareholders. The committee, as the shareholder representative, has authority to approve the business plan. The current year's business plan is being brought to committee to the members to consider and agree. Mr. Ellis, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Any questions from any committee? Councillor Stanley?
Thank you, Chair. It was obvious from the beginning when this was first put about that we was going to collect a separate waste from green to from vegetable to meat and such like, and we knew that was going to increase somewhat on the delivery to the depot for them to do that. Just exactly, my question is that because it was combined before, by how much is the increase taken into account that was combined before? How much is the increase in today's standards?
Sorry, are you referring to the sort of tonnages collected or costs or vehicles?
No, I was thinking about the increase in labour costs and such like, because it was obvious that we combined the two units together and it was collected just the same. So how much of an increase, because it says that it's further strain on resources. So I'd like to know what the further strain of resources are and what the increase is that obviously we're getting a value back from the waste that we're putting in, but what is the increase that's in what they're talking about? Thank you.
Sorry, so to clarify, so you're absolutely right. So I think for those that may have not been so familiar with the service, so the service originally had a mixed composting and food waste collection on a weekly basis, and the contract was costed accordingly to that. Then we had a new service introduced, which is the food waste service last year, and that's the additional cost that you're asking about. So in total, that food cost is around food waste service. It involves 4 extra vehicles. I can recollect here, but it's around £600,000 a year. That total cost. And we obviously look to offset that with a contribution from Essex County Council for £150,000, which has still left us with a pressure of about £150,000. I would say it was a very generous contribution from Essex. So it's probably the best that has been achieved by other authorities in terms of the contribution towards the food waste service. Sadly, it's not enough to cover the cost, which is what we're hoping to do so, but the Food Waste Service has been far more successful than we anticipated. And so to give you a comparison, we're running 4 rounds of 12.5-tonne vehicles. I think you'll find Brentwood run 2 vehicles of 7.5 tonnes. Castle Point, I think, also run 3 vehicles of 7.5 tonnes, and I think Malden run 3 vehicles of 12.5 tonnes. So comparative size authorities locally, which we modelled upon, we are far exceeding the tonnages that we expected to collect, which is a good success story in terms of diverting food away from the main waste stream. So it's a good sort of environmental story, but it obviously has come at a cost. So I think the business plan alludes to that and says there is a pressure there, and that's something that I'm sitting down with Norse and working through, as we believe that there can be efficiencies gained through rerouting of the existing rounds. So where you see a contract has expanded, and this is through the previous delivery as well as Suez before that, you've seen developments happen over 10 odd years, then they're not always gently routed back in, they're almost plopped on the end of a round, and so you'll see a bit of zigzagging back and forth of the district to collect things. I think with the rerouting, we hope to gain those efficiencies back, and that's what we hope to do, and that's the challenge.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. Councillor Eaves.
Thank you, Chair. Turning to page 95, Rochford North's business plan. Just one thing that stands out there for me, subs and donations, 13.5 grand. Can you give an explanation to that, please? It's about 10 down on the list.
I could have an educated guess, but what I would rather do is have Norse clarify. I suspect it's to do with the operational licence that you have to there's certain subscriptions you have to do towards that. That's what I suspect goes under there. Looking at that, the amount seems familiar to me, but I don't want to second guess. What I'd rather do is come back and provide you with a definitive answer.
Yeah.
So
I think it's just with all the figures that's there. That one stands out as being a little bit of a screw you.
No, I don't think. I think I understand what that means. So I don't even when I looked at it previously, it seems to be about the amount that you pay annually for operational licences for the number of vehicles, about £800 a year. So I'm thinking when I add up, I think that's what it's for. But I don't want to guess what that's for at this stage.
No, okay. Well, perhaps if you could come back to the committee on that, that would be really appreciated. The other thing is, I know that we at Council are absolutely obsessed with acronyms, but you get to the bottom of there, EBITDA, excluding MC, all that lot there. Can you give us a brief explanation of what they all mean? I think that would be quite useful to anyone actually looking at this.
I would have to look them back up now. It's equity before interest, isn't it? Is EBT, the EBITDA. I'd have to almost look back to my notes on sort of finances to give you definitions. I understand that if they don't vary because they're not interest and taxes are not taken into account in the bottom profit line, so you see they're not moving from one to the next. So I wouldn't say disregard them, but I thought, well, they're almost, they've put them as a standard line, but they don't really apply to this contract, which is why it's not changed as it's gone down. But I can provide you with the definitive definitions. I'll ask them to be open, perhaps drop some of the jargon out, and where the lines are not necessary as well, perhaps not put them in there. It's just standard formatting.
I think that would be appreciated for all parties involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at page 77, Appendix A, the first page of the business plan, item 13 is the performance and monitoring KPIs. So then if we turn to page 89, it lists the performance and monitoring KPIs. But it lists them by names. There's nothing to go by, no baseline or what they're judging themselves on or monitoring themselves on. So I just wondered if the officers can give some explanation of how they are monitored, what against, and where does that monitoring sit? Does it sit under a committee to scrutinise or a member of staff? And then I've got one more question on that as well, Marcus.
A bit simple, one question at a time is easier. So with that one, we have monthly meetings where the KPIs are discussed, and so they create a large spreadsheet matrix of the KPIs. They're circulated through to the chair and the vice chair as well for sites. These are then normally discussed in a bit more detail. We have a quarterly liaison board meeting, which then feeds into the full board meeting. So they're discussed with the liaison board meeting. We have the chair and the vice chair and myself as representatives.
The other question is the very first KPI on there says missed collections per 100,000. So that's pretty straightforward. That's how many missed bins per 100,000 bins. I have some concern, and I'd love to see those figures to know how accurate they are, because I find a lot of people will, if we like it or not, use social media and say, my bin's been missed. And then when I ask, only a handful have actually reported them. So is it a case of they don't know how to report? Which could we perhaps do a little campaign to say, if your bin's missed, this is how to report it, etc., and make it as easy as possible. Or, of course, they have put them out late, perhaps, and that's why they've been missed. But it would help us get some real figures, because as one of the councillors, I don't know about any of my colleagues here, but it is something that I get asked about a lot of times. Our bin's been missed. Thank you.
So I think the performance indicator is only ever going to be indicative, not an absolute number. But you'll see, in terms of benchmarking, we can compare across other authorities, but it's the same across the board, that only a certain amount will actually report a missed bin. So, equally, there are, of course, people that report missed bins that haven't been missed, but have been put out late. So you do have that other aspect to it. But I think providing you're fairly consistent in the way you're recording, and you set your target at a level that you're comfortable with as an authority, then that just provides the baseline. But I wouldn't say that's an absolute number, but it gives you an indicator. So if it starts to go up, you still know there's an issue. If it starts to come down, you also know that you're improving. So I think it's just it's indicative rather than I can say, yes, that's exactly the number of missed bins there is at any one time in the districts.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. Councillor FD.
Thank you, Chairman. You got it right. Right, just got a couple of questions. One is page 72, the strategic options. You've got A, B and C there. When are these likely to come back to committee, and what committee are they likely to come back to? And option A is really good, so I think it should really worth doing, but it's not going to resolve the existing capacity issues on its own. So will there be, with that option, how much it cost to actually resolve it without going to the other two options? So it's a bit of a long question, I know you like them one at a time.
Thank you. So option A, so of those options, absolutely, option one, the route optimisation is something that's already beginning to undertake, because we are within the year anyway. And certainly that's, as an authority, our pushback to them in terms of them saying that they are struggling with capacity issues. The first thing to do is, well, you need to prove it and actually map out your routes and make sure that you're running as efficiently as possible. I think the other two options, I think will be considered after that one, but initially that one doesn't really require any financial input from ourselves. The decision, it's operational. I think the other two will need some input from this committee, but the first thing I think we want to do is just be absolutely confident that they're running as they should be, just because over time all services become slightly less efficient.
Thank you, Councillor FD.
I've just got a couple more. Going KPIs, would it be useful to, when you report the KPIs, to actually send them out to members by ward? And then if there's something that's really glaringly obvious that's going wrong, ward members could maybe pass that on, or at least have some information, because there seems to be very little information about KPIs going out. I know you report them quarterly, so it'd be nice if you just send them out to the ward members. And I'm giving you more work there.
No, I think I'm more than happy to do that, to be honest. If people have that interest, I'm happy to send out those. I said it's not really a great deal of work at all. It's just a a few more addresses on an email. So no, we're happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor FD. Councillor Stanley?
Thank you, Chair. Just a little question. With the onset of these 15,000 homes that is proposed in the area that we are talking about, how do we expect to stump up some cost of vehicles and also of staffing as well for those vehicles? I know that at this moment in time we are handling the vehicles okay and we're collecting okay, but with the involvement of new houses being built continuously and to the future, I don't know what the future holds for us, but are we looking at improving the vehicles and the staff at Norse?
So certainly there's always a longer term strategic view of the service, and it's in the past what we'd usually do is we'd look at that predicted number of properties to be built over say a given period of time, and you'd plan your service accordingly. There will be a cost, in the longer term. If you have a certain number of properties to deliver to, then you can have a cost to do so. A certain amount can be absorbed within existing resources, but then you have what you call almost like a step change in cost. So you'll say if you're running on 5 rounds and you're absolutely the maximum, and you have to start a 6th round, you have to start a 6th round, and that's a whole vehicle and probably 3 members of staff as a minimum to run that really, and probably there is no in between sort of sliding scale, but it's very hard to predict at this stage. You've also got LGR to consider as well, so there may be opportunities within that to sort of to trim back. Should that happen, then there's opportunity perhaps to work across authorities, and we can do so anyway. But there is always a certain amount of modelling going on. I think what I would say is that as developments come forward, they don't usually come forward overnight. They take 2 or 3 years to get to the sort of a size where we'd have to sort of consider adopting around, and so you at least have some time then to plan and purchase vehicles and sort of gain staff if required.
The reason that I asked this is that we purchased four vehicles for food waste. Are we using just 2 and 2 standing by waiting to be used for future reference, or what is happening with those other 2? Because we bought 4 vehicles, and as far as I'm aware, we're only using 2. I don't know if we are. I'm out of that now, so you need to explain to me, if we're not using them, then the purpose of getting them was to use them, but if we're not going to use them, then let's put the money into something sustainable rather than sitting there doing nothing. Thank you.
No, I can confirm we are using all 4. So there are 4 active food waste rounds.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. Councillor McPherson?
Thank you, Chairman. I was just coming back on, I know Councillor FD requested around some of the KPIs. I just want to give full credit to the team that managed the Norse contract, and special mention to the Principal Streets Team Recycling Officer. I believe that's her title. Because if something does drop in, for example, in my ward, and there's been some contamination where it's been mixed in with the recycling, they will let us know, and then that's when we do a little mini campaign within our residents on the local social media to remind them around things like recycling and why it saves us money, and especially the taxpayer. Thank you.
I shall pass on your compliments, but I fully agree. We've got some excellent staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for allowing me to speak. Going back to strategic options, option 3, just a question for the Director of Environment. Is there any point in doing a green bin collection during the winter? I don't know what the take-up is now. I've noticed that very few bins go out, probably, I don't know, from November for 3 or 4 months at least. Would that be an option?
I think there's variations on a theme. I mean, so it is very much their business plan rather than necessarily, you know, ours in terms of this is what they've put forward. But certainly there's a variation. So yes, I think there is ability to consider that as well as a halfway house. But I think there's just various things. But certainly none of these would option 3, for example, would require consultation. I think we couldn't just go ahead and do that. So it's something you have to consider. Not just the committee, but also go out to the public on. I think dropping the service in the winter, you may be able to do a bit more quickly, or certainly reduce the service. And to some degree, that happened naturally. You know, so if you've got less demand, you may only put out 3 vehicles rather than 5, but you'll still service all the properties across the districts anyway. So it doesn't seem any different looking in, if you like, from the outside. But certainly operationally, it's reduced resource over the winter. So I think a little bit of that's going on already, which is quite useful, which helps reduce the costs the last year, but I think going forward what they're saying is there are other pressures as well.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor FD.
Thank you, Chairman, for your indulgence. Just probably my last question, well, it's more of a clarification. On page 94, on the budget lines, it's got basic pay in there twice. I don't know, it's the only thing that's in there twice, and it adds up to quite a lot of money. I'm sure they've highlighted, or it's towards the middle. I don't want to say the numbers because this is going out. Under vehicle licences, vehicle trackers, vehicle licences, basic pay. Then you go right down to the bottom, second from the bottom, again is basic pay between gross profit and holiday pay. So I don't know if don't quite understand that.
I think, again, I can get clarity for you, but one cost to me looks like it relates to the operational staff, and the other cost looks like it relates to the staff within the offices, the administration. And I mean, given the amounts, I think that's
Yes, it just might be nice if they put it on there for clarification. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor FD. Are there any more? Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Chair. Just one other thing that I know it's very, very small, but is there any chance of getting the road sweepers to do the side roads? Although I do understand that the main roads need to be kept clear, but I'd like to point out that my particular road that I live in hasn't had a sweeper in it for 50 years, and I just wondered if the side roads could be dealt with a little bit more of a priority, if you like, than the main roads, as the main roads are always kept clear in any case. Thank you.
So just conscious we're going a little bit off topic, but certainly happy for an officer to arrange to meet you on your street and have a look, see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. Are there any more questions? I will move on with the recommendations set out in page 69 of the report. R1, that the Environmental Committee approves the 26-27 Rochford North Business Plan as appended to this report. Do I have a seconder? Can I have a show of hands? For? Yeah. Sorry. That's unanimous. The report begins on page 99. The report sets out the work programme for the committee for the coming 26-27 municipal year. Invite questions from committee members. There's no questions. That concludes the business for this evening. Thank you for your attendance. The time is now... No, there's no recommendations. It's a note, sorry. The meeting ends at 20 to 8, 1950.